Welcome to our Wednesday night Inktober program with the Arts Council of Princeton. My name is Barbara DiLorenzo, and I've been a teacher at the Arts Council since 2014. And I've been working with all ages and um, all abilities. So it's really my joy to extend our art time in these free sessions on Wednesday nights, especially around this Inktober tradition. Some of you may have participated with Inktober before, just a prompt a day during October to build the art habit of sketching and specifically in the traditional version of Inktober, working with ink, but off the record, it doesn't bother me if you want to use anything and everything. Whatever materials work for you are good. Um, so I think what I'm going to do just to get us going, I think I'm going to switch over and share my screen. And it's going to take a minute to get my camera hooked up. I had the Inktober site all there. And I thought that maybe for tonight, to get us started, before we even look at any prompts or think about any drawings that we want to do, looking at particular materials that might be fun to work with. I, I know there are some very specific tools on the Inktober website, but I just grabbed some tools from around my studio and my daughter's little pen here. Um, and I even have a stick. I'll show you what that is for later, but that is fun to dip into ink. I have some artistic uh, inks, but you also can just use a ballpoint pen. It is up to you, whatever you want to use. I encourage experimentation. If you want to just go grab some markers, some Crayola markers, it does not matter. We're going to have fun making some art. It doesn't matter what you make that art with. One thing though, if you do have any ink, like this Higgins ink is a Black India ink, um, you might want to get some kind of container to put it into. So for me, this is just a little porcelain dish, but if you have a paper plate or some other kind of dish that you don't plan on eating out of, that can be a really nice place to put the ink. So let's get started just playing with some materials and seeing what some of these things can do in terms of mark making. I think that's a really important aspect of making any kind of art. So I have just regular sketchbook paper here. In fact, I'm just going to, I thought I had done this earlier and I'm sorry that I didn't. I'm going to adjust my camera settings a little. And while this is coming up, okay, let me put widescreen. Oh, now, actually, while I'm doing this, you can probably take a quick look at the Inktober prompts. We have the first one on this list is dream. So even though not going to think too much about it just yet, it can sort of percolate in the back of our mind. So I'm going to start with this very silly rainbow ballpoint pen. And I'm just going to make some marks at the top of the page. This is called cross hatching when you just make this sort of parallel lines. Maybe they go opposite directions. Maybe they're curved. Maybe they cross over one another like this. Um, and I'm going to label it because I want to know what tool is making what mark. So I'm going to call this the rainbow pen. And even though it's a humble tool, it may work for what I want. So I'm not going to discount it based on how expensive it is. Here is just a bank pen, and I just want to see the difference. And it might not show up in the camera, but this is black and this is blue. So I'm just going to call this bank pen in case I want something slightly different. I also have a micron pen, pretty well worn. I have smudge marks all over it, and actually it's definitely got a lot of ink around the base, which means it's probably leaking a little bit. My hands are probably going to get a little bit dirty. I'm just going to make some marks, and this one is a little dried out. I have more somewhere, but I don't know that I really want to work with it tonight, so I'm going to say dried micron. but I may like that kind of dry look. That might be fun. I'm going to set aside the ones that I've used over there. Here's a thin Sharpie. I'm going to make some different marks. Just see what I can do here. Thin, and this is slightly purple Sharpie. Here's a thicker Sharpie. Oh, a little dry. Big Sharpie. And if anybody has any questions while I'm doing this, you can certainly say so. I think I'm going to start with the India ink, sort of the traditional ink that a lot of people use when they're making ink drawings. This is a waterproof ink, which is a lot of fun. It can go down, dry, and then you could add color over it if you want to. Watercolor especially, it won't smudge. That's very helpful. I have a whole bunch of brushes over to the side. I do a lot of watercolor painting, so I'm going to use some watercolor brushes for this. I have a little bit of water right next to me to rinse my brushes out. But one thing I want to point out with this particular, I just want to get this clean. This particular brush is called a quill, and it has a nice reservoir where you can put the ink, but it also comes to a nice point. So with this one, I think I'm going to practice that. I'm going to start with this sort of thin little bit, and then I want to kind of push out and make something really big. And that to me is so much fun. It's so exciting that this is one of my favorite brushes to use. May take some practice if you have something like this at hand. It may be something you want to just make lots of little squiggles to get used to, how to make it flange out and make these big broad strokes, or how to make it really fine. I'm gonna rinse that one out a little bit. And I'm going to use this brush also with this ink. This is a rigger brush, and it's got a very long bristle. It's about 1 inch long, and it's not meant to be scrubbed back and forth. It's really meant to make a nice long line. And it's so named after the artists that were working on boat rigging and creating this nice, on a sloop, maybe on the lines of a boat. I'm not going to be able to do a really excellent tall ship right now with this, but you could kind of see how some of these lines, say this is where the little ladder goes.
Barbara,
That this
I
would,
might interrupt
yes,
you. This is
sure.
Melissa. Hi. We have a couple questions. Number one, how do you clean your ink brushes? Is it just regular water? And Sandra wants to know, and maybe Sandra can chime in, do you use separate brushes for ink?
Yes, you should definitely use separate brushes for ink. And the other thing you can use to clean them, especially with a waterproof ink like the India ink, is rubbing alcohol will take it off. So that is something that uh, or you can also just dilute it in water as you're going, so there's really not as much to clean up if you don't let it dry fully on the brush. But it's best if you have really nice watercolor brushes. It's really good to keep the brushes separate from the ink brushes that you're using. That's a great question. I'm just going to get a paper towel. But if anyone else has questions, you certainly can unmute yourself. I see some in the chat. I'm just going to go up there and take a peek. Those were the ones. Okay. If anyone else has a question, I'll try to look up at the chat, but if I miss it, you can holler. Go ahead and just let me know you are interested in finding out.
Barbara, excuse me. When you said
Yeah.
alcohol, do you mean 99.9? I don't have that one. I have the one that's what 79 or something like that percent alcohol. Is 99.9 important for the cleaning of the India ink from the brush?
You know what? I'm not sure exactly what the precise one to use would be. Use what you have tonight, but I can do more research and find out if there is a recommendation on exactly what you should use. Um, Sorry about that. Sorry, I'm not sure fully.
Right.
I don't want to give you the wrong answer.
Okay. Thanks.
No problem. I'm going to put a little bit more ink in here, and I'm going to use this really fun tool that just came from outside. It's just a stick. And I was using it the other day to do a piece, and it was so much fun because in this one drawing class, we did a drawing on the one side of the paper that was with graphite, very refined, very controlled, and then we had a stick with ink on the other side, and it was loose and it was hard to control, but it was very lovely. So this is one of those tools that everybody's stick is going to behave a little differently, and even either side of the stick will behave differently, but it can be so great to loosen up and do something that just takes away a little control, makes something a little different happen. I'm getting so many marks out of this, and it's just, one little stick. If you have a whole bunch of sticks, you could have a whole bunch of mark making tools. So when I look at this entire page so far, I have these very controlled lines, very similar width lines. And then as I get into the brushes and with the stick, I have these variations in thick and thin lines that can add so much character to a piece. So I'm just going to write down stick here. And I have another little tray. I'm going to put a different color in here. You can buy inks in a lot of different colors. And so um, this brand, this Dr. P.H. Martin, is a good ink brand. I actually got inks that were actually they're closer to watercolors in how they behave, but they still, I think, technically are ink. And I'm just going to make sure my brush is nice and clean. And I'm going to try this Norway blue. So it's the same brush, but now I just want to see what happens with a slight color change. And that's quite pretty. Let's see what the stick does with this. This kind of experimentation might feel silly if you're not used to doing it. It might feel like, whoa, this is like kindergarten all over again. What am I doing? But it's important to play. It's important for artists to experiment and test out new ideas and do the unexpected. You may come up with a technique or a tool that you really enjoy, or a color that you really love. So taking inventory of what you've got around you is important. Okay, so for me, this is the extent of what I have at the ready. I have more pens downstairs, but I don't have them right here. Does anybody want to share what kind of materials they have been working with, or that they found were fun? And you can unmute and just can look at everybody. Let's see. If you want to do the raise hand thing too, I can probably see you. Nobody wants to share. You don't have to share the actual experimentation if you don't want to. You can just volunteer what material you were playing with. No, nobody wants to. Okay, I'm not going to put you guys on the spot. We will jump into playing with the very first prompt. So the one thing about playing with ink is that it often goes through sketchbook paper. So on the back side of this, I have a few little dots, but actually that's okay because this is really a brainstorming page. So I don't mind if it's a little bit dirty. I'm not going to do anything too refined on this page. So I'm actually just going to grab I think what I'm going to grab is the Sharpie. I'm going to grab the Sharpie to come up with some ideas. So the prompt for the very first word is dream. I love this prompt. I saw spiders on there. I'm not so excited about spiders, but I'm excited about this one. So one thing that a lot of artists do, whether you're working on a piece that you want to put just up on your own wall or show, or if you want to illustrate something, one thing we do is a bunch of usually thumbnails. These are a little bit bigger than thumbnails, but sketches to kind of figure out what the concept might be. So for Dream, some of the things that are on my mind it might be an obvious idea at first. It might just be a person with a pillow and they're sleeping. And I'm not worried at this point. I'm not thinking about, oh, did I draw her correctly? Is this gonna look pretty? That's not what this is for. This is just simply the concept phase and sort of thinking, oh, does it work to have a little dream bubble and maybe there's something up here that shows what she's dreaming. That's one idea. But maybe it's not a person. Maybe it's a dog. Um, Maybe the dog is curled up a little bit. And again, I sort of drew kind of a funny little head here, and I forgot to make his eyes closed. It's okay. I'm not worried about whether my drawing is accurate. I'm looking for an overall feel. And one thing dogs do when they dream sometimes is they kind of kick a foot or they look like they're running. So I could put little shaky lines in if I want to. And sometimes for me, if I don't understand my drawing, I might actually put a little note saying shaky lines for movement. And that kind of helps. Just, in fact, I'm sure no one can read my handwriting there. Sorry about that. But it basically gives the opportunity for me returning to a picture to understand what it was I was up to. And then here, maybe this is where we see, what does a dog dream? And maybe in this case, it's the dog is leaping over a fence and is happy. And again, very crude, uh, but that's okay. I'm not worried about how fancy this looks. Um, so these are sleeping dreams, but maybe the dream could be something where a person or an animal or any character is sort of thinking about something they want to attain. Um, and they're thinking about how to do it. So maybe it's a girl, whoops, who is a runner, and maybe she is putting on her sneakers. And again, not worried about how perfect this looks. But here's this um, girl putting on her running shoes. And maybe there's sort of bleachers behind her. And maybe the track, visual cues to show where this would be. And maybe some kind of scoreboard. I never did track, so I don't really know exactly what goes on there. But again, I can just write in parentheses off to the side, track. Um, And then maybe in this case, maybe I do still want to have these little balloons, but then show the person running the race. She's going to be a stick figure now. Whoops, I got the legs wrong. Um, and can't tell what the heck I just drew, but here's some people in the distance. And believe it or not, this is what a lot of my notebooks look like. They look very clumsy, very crude because I'm trying to get the idea down without worrying too much about it. So this is the girl winning, and these are the other racers. So again, I'm helping myself out with some notes. I do see a couple of people put stuff in the chat, so I'm just going to take a peek. Oh, Lucy mentioned that she uses walnut ink, which is wonderful by Sennelier. I never know how to pronounce that, but that's wonderful. That is something that I have walnut. I thought I had walnut ink, but I actually have walnut darkening medium, and I've been using it as the ink. Nothing has happened. It works beautifully, but I think this is technically added to walnut ink to make it darker. So if you have walnut ink. It is beautiful, and then this is lovely. And this is not the brand that Lucy mentioned. Um, it's Tom Norton walnut ink, in case anyone's interested in that. Okay, so in these first passes, I might say, "Oh, I found my perfect idea," but then I may not, and I may need to keep going with this. And so one thing I might decide is, well, what if it's sort of the dream of a community? What if it's the dream of, um, let's see, a community of chickens to live on the other side of this little wall and go graze in the nice little field that it's next to. These are backyard chickens, so it's not like a big industrial thing. They're just all looking, saying, I want to get out. I want to be free, but not in a sad way. So that could be kind of funny and cute. And then there's like all these delicious grasses for them on this side. And again, hard to tell what my picture's all about, so I might write chickens dreaming of the green grass. So again, there's no wrong answer. It's really just kind of this free flow to see where the ideas are going to go. I might also think about imagery that I really have grown fond of, come across in other things, and want to sort of play around with. It may not be a full concept. It might just be those images of people sometimes sitting on the moon. Those are so cute. I think the DreamWorks logo usually has someone fishing off that. But it could just be someone sort of looking up at the stars and sort of appreciating stars everywhere. Um, so it doesn't really have such a structured concept. It's more of a visual that I've come across that I like. That seems sweet, but maybe there's another one that's a little more fantastical. My 6-year-old daughter loves mermaids. Maybe I want to have like a little mermaid kind of coming down.
Barbara, while you draw, can I ask you a question?
Yes, please do. Did I miss one? Oh, I did. Sorry.
No. There's a
Yeah.
really, really good question, which I think speaks to Inktober in general. And that is, what if you can't bite the bullet, or what if you're not willing to dive right in with ink? Can we start with pencil and just doodle? It doesn't have to be a totally fleshed out idea. What do you think about that?
So I think really I've seen Inktober for years now, I think. And there's so many variations. There's so many ways people have interpreted this challenge. And the official Inktober and the reason why we're working with ink is because they reached out to us actually to help the community do this year, which is so much fun. But I don't think it matters what you use. I think if you want something that's more editable, like a pencil, you certainly can do that. In fact, I have some of my favorite pencils right here, and whether I'm drawing in pen or pencil, I the October police are not going to come and get us, I promise. In fact, a lot of my sketchbooks really do have a lot of sketches where I'm just sort of figuring something out in graphite. I have a big eraser to just say, oh no, none of this is going to work. Or I have this pencil eraser, which is a nice way to get rid of little details that I don't want to have anymore. So I probably draw 60% of the time and erase 40% of the time. So if anybody out there is erasing and feeling like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, uh, think of erasing as editing, kind of like when you are composing an email and you write something and then you need to erase to come up with a better sentence. You are editing. So with your pictures, if you are editing, like let's say in this one, I'm going to put a little seal. I don't know why there's a seal here, but for some reason there's a little seal on the moon. And then I say, you know what, actually the proportion's off. I really think that either the seal should be smaller or the moon should be bigger. It's not going to help just to kind of let it be and not fix it. If I think it's not correct, I should go ahead and just erase. And for that reason, I try to work in big, vague shapes in the beginning because I don't want to frustrate myself by drawing the most beautiful, detailed seal and then say, oh, you know what? All of this has to change. So keep your shapes nice and big and then decide, what is it that I'm going to keep, like this isn't quite right, and go for it. And then the other thing is, if you want to draw in pencil and then you say, okay, that's the image, that's what I want to do, you could always take a pen, and I'll take this thicker Sharpie. You can go over the lines a little more precisely. And then when that is drawn, you can go back and erase. So now that I drew that part of the seal, I can just go back. I probably should have given it a minute to dry. That wasn't really fair of me to start erasing right away. But all of a sudden, I have a cleaner picture. So if that's important to you, you can sketch in pencil, and you can um, put those lines down and then erase. That's totally fine. Some people just like to sketch in ink, and maybe that is because there's really no way to erase it, and so you're stuck with those lines, and it's kind of exciting. It's kind of a record of everything that you've been doing. Sometimes some of my favorite drawings are just a ballpoint pen, that I have decided that I'm going to stick with that and sort of see it through. And I might have some sketchy lines in the beginning, but then as I'm working, I might start to fill in. I use this cross hatching a lot, especially when sketching. Fill in the values a little bit more, sort of darken them up, make them a little more interesting. Maybe, if you're sitting in a meeting and you're just doodling and you're sketching with your ballpoint pen, you can really create something really detailed and fun. My go-to when I'm in a meeting and no one can tell I'm sketching is just a nice little octopus. I do that all the time and have so much fun making them. And there's kind of no wrong way. You just make your little tentacles, and they're so much fun. So you can just keep adding the details. And after a while, even with a ballpoint pen and even with these sketchy lines, it starts to kind of come into focus. So I think a little octopus should be on this one. And then I probably have exhausted this moon idea. So I will just put this on here for now. And then, oh, this sort of looks like a little tentacle was just already there. That's really funny. And it may happen that you kind of get lost in your drawing and you just have so much fun doing what you're doing that you kind of forget to move on to the next thing, or that's fine. Just enjoy yourself. This is a sweet little octopus. I should give eyes to the seal too. I'm doing a lot of dot eyes tonight. So again, very sort of sketchy, loose. Nothing is really jumping off the paper to me to say this is exactly the thing I want to go with. But I like the playfulness so far. So just to keep us moving with thinking about the next step, I am going to pick one. You don't have to take your Inktober drawing to a very polished, finished end. You could actually have it just be any of these. That would be totally fine. Oh, I should mention, if you want to have these reposted through the Arts Council, we have a special tag for this event. It's going to be ACP Inktober. And if you add that tag, I believe it will help be boosted by the Arts Council. And you can also add the Inktober tag too if you want to see it come up in sort of the broader range of their the people all over the world participate in this, so that's a bigger group, but this will kind of be a smaller group and your pieces will come to the surface. Okay, so I'm going to pick this one, just sort of a girl sitting on a moon with the stars. There's something very dreamy about that, and I like that. So I'm going to turn my page. Oops, there's a flower on the next page. I wasn't expecting that. That was from the Saraland Conservancy drawing night. Okay, so now I'm feeling like I want a little more precision in what I'm doing. So I think maybe I will use my pencil. And maybe what I'll use is some of this ink with the one of the brushes or the stick. Actually, maybe I'll do two. I'll do two. So if you have found a concept of your own that you like, go ahead and use that. If you want to use this concept, it's totally fine with me. It's going to look different between artists, and I do not mind. You have my full permission to use it if this is what you are wanting to draw tonight, or if you can't think of anything else, it's absolutely fine with me. Because I certainly didn't come up with this concept either. I'm sure a million people have put people on little crescent moons like this. And that's fine. We're just using this as a drawing exercise. And really the spirit of this entire thing is to just get into drawing, just to start to feel free and have fun and not obsess over a mark that feels incorrect to you. Remember, you have your eraser. Some of this stuff got a little wonky up here. I don't do well with curves at these angles. Sometimes I'll turn my paper and kind of give myself a fighting chance to get that angle a little closer. Um, and then let's see. I'm going to do, I like that sort of curved back and the feet up. I'm going to do two like this, maybe little slippers. And then maybe an arm down like this. And because I like to draw and write for children for books, I am used to drawing kid-like figures and to sort of the shorthand, the quick way to make it look like a kid or a younger person is to make a bigger head. So that is something that is kind of a trick for illustrators that are working on children's literature. We like nice big heads for children. Nice and wide, cute little eyes. Except now this face is looking out at the viewer, and I realize I really need to turn this. So again, the eraser comes in handy, and I think I'm going to put a little bit more of a profile. So I'm just going to kind of a little bit of a nose, nothing too detailed. This isn't really the night for a ton of detail. I think a lot of hair everywhere. I like kids with hair all over the place. And I think this person is wearing their pajamas, as my daughter should probably be getting into hers. I'm going to put little hearts all over. And then little stars. Actually, I have trouble making stars, so I'm going to do this, and then with the ink, I can make them a little better. Okay. I'm going to try to mimic the same thing over here, just so stylistically we can see the difference between the different materials. Similar to that exercise in the drawing class the other day. It was so fun to see the difference between the stick and the graphite. Although I'm not sure my my drawing won't be the same from one to the other. I feel like these are footy pajamas. I'm going to tip the head a little. And a little nose. Lots of crazy hair. This one looks a little older, and it could be because the nose and the eyes are up a little bit higher. So I'm just going to bring it down just a little bit. Make it, there we go. All right. I love illustration because you have so much freedom to do whatever you want. You can make very simple characters and shapes, and it just goes so nicely in a lot of different worlds that, stories are about. So, if you want to imagine this as a character in a story that helps you, go for it. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use maybe I'll use the quill and I'll use the stick. And maybe what I will also do is use, um, Actually, maybe a different color. Although blue might be dreamy. That might be kind of fun. Now that I got rid of it, maybe I actually want to keep it. Well, in any event, I will have fresh ink. No, let me show you the walnut, because I think the walnut's very pretty. Even though blue would be kind of fun. Sometimes it's hard to make a decision. Okay, so there's my walnut ink, and my brush may still have a little bit of other ink in it. Now, before you put the ink down, you may want to have another piece of paper to kind of just test and make sure that you know how this is going to be received. Now, this is actually watercolor paper, so it's going to behave differently than the sketch paper, but at least I can kind of get a sense of how that's going to happen. I could start with the girl, I could start with the moon. It's usually whatever makes me feel the most comfortable, and I think making these sweeping arcs right now is not making me feel comfortable. So I'm going to start with the hair, because I feel like there's almost no way to mess up the hair. My goal was to make messy kid hair, so big loop-de-loops everywhere kind of work. Might have gotten a little too messy. That's okay. And then I'm going to just very gently draw in the face, little eye, and the eyebrow. And some of these extra lines in here I can get rid of with the eraser, but I can't get rid of them yet. And I'm just going to think about details, like the little bunching up of fabric that occurs right at that elbow and at the end here. And I'm allowing my brush to really have thick and thin moments. I'm not creating a solid line. I'm just kind of indicating the overall shape. That's going to be her hand going down there. Another little hand over here. And then I'm just going to get this nice sweep here and up under. Again, pajamas. And I'm envisioning footy pajamas. So it's going to have that like padding bit in the front. It's not quite footy pajama weather yet. Getting there though. All right, a little scoop neck. I don't want her to feel like her pajamas are too tight. And then I'm just gonna make little, almost like little abstract hearts. Not, it's kind of far away that I can get away with just the abstraction of it. Okay, so that to me feels like a little kid, definitely in pajamas, I think. I should put a few more up here. So now I'm going to work on this, and my anxiety over getting that arc to be perfect is it's there. So what I might want to do is just on another piece of paper, give it a test. See what happens. There was nothing to worry about on this test sheet, and I didn't make a perfect arc, but I do enjoy some of the quality of the thick and thin. This got a little bit um, there's some white coming through where there wasn't a lot of ink, and it skipped. That's called dry brush. So if you kind of skip over textured paper, you get this really interesting sparkle almost, which is so nice. But I don't know if I really want it to do that. The nice thing is this paper is smooth, so it's probably not going to catch as much. But I am going to tilt it so my hand has a fighting chance. Although before I draw it, I do see some comments or questions. Um, Someone said, I'm a true beginner. What if I can't draw the dream prompt I have in mind? I can start with a pencil and just doodle, right? Yes, of course. And actually, I should say it is always a challenge for artists of any amount of experience to draw what they have in their mind. A lot of times I just give it over to, I'm starting out with this vague idea. Let's see where the art goes. But sometimes I try to really push an idea that I have, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Someone else wrote, I have 4 quill hairbrushes sent from Japan. Will they get ruined by the India ink? Um, you know something? I don't want to say go ahead and use your really beautiful one-of-a-kind brushes with the ink. I would look up what kind of brushes they are, and I would make sure that you you don't use something that might ruin your brush, because that sounds really, really lovely. All right, there's my moon. It's not quite what I was hoping for. I was hoping for a thinner line, but that's okay. I'm gonna roll with it. And now I'm gonna make these stars. They're a little bit wobbly, but it's all in keeping with the style of this because her hair is a little bit that way. Okay. So we do have a really fun aspect of this Inktober with the Arts Council, if anyone is interested. We are going to offer the opportunity for anybody to submit a work that they want to have in an exhibit at the end of the, or no, I think it's in December. Uh, you can submit the work, it will be on display. Nothing is for sale. But it would be a really fun community event. And if you're local and you want to pick your work up, you can at the end. If you want your work to be shipped back to you, you can include a self-addressed stamped envelope, and there will be more details on that coming soon. So that is something that, if you're interested, the Arts Council would love to encourage people to participate. So now I'm not nervous because I'm drawing with a stick, and there is literally very little control over here. So the nice thing is it's wobbly in its own way, and the moon I actually am more fond of than the a little bit more precise moon. So you might find these unexpected moments with something like a stick. In the Inktober official site, they do have very specific pens and things that they recommend. Um, you know, those are wonderful tools too, but I want to make sure everyone has the ability to participate, whether or not they have all those tools. So if you have access to a little bit of ink or a pencil, you just want to draw, make some art, that's really all that matters. So this is a fun thing to do after kind of really trying to control the first piece and make it very steady. This is far less controlled, but hopefully still fun. Got the little pajama things everywhere. I would love in maybe 5 minutes if anyone wants to share their work. We can you can raise your hand and hold your work up and I can take a screenshot of it if that's something you feel comfortable with. These stars do not look like stars. This is definitely uh, an interpretation of a star. Okay, so looking at these two, I am really having fun imagining, each one of them as their own piece. Although this one needs a little more for her to sit on. There we go. I should wait till this fully dries, but I'm going to try to erase a little bit around here. I think this might be okay. If your eraser is full of graphite and it doesn't look very clean, you can always, on another part of the paper, just kind of rub away some of that graphite. You don't want to make extra dirty marks on your paper. So just kind of getting it back to its bright self just by erasing somewhere else can really help. And then you have eraser shavings everywhere. All right, I'm gonna just erase out this part with the hair on her face. And oh, I really enjoy this. I think it came out. I hope I'm not going across any puddles. If there are any ink puddles, I may have a problem. Oh, so one thing that I don't know what to do with now is she is levitating. Um, maybe she's very magical and she is levitating over this moon, but that is not something I intended. If it really bothers me, maybe I could put like a pillow under her. I'm gonna erase some of these stars first. Okay. All right, let's see. What can we do to fix this? Um, let's see. It makes sense that there would be like a little pillow here. Maybe there's like a little, maybe a little blanket hanging off the side. Maybe some folds of a blanket, something like that. Now it really looks like she's in that space more. So I'm kind of glad that happened. It was one of those Bob Ross happy accident moments. Um, okay, this is still too wet. I can tell there's sort of a shine to some places. So I think I've got to leave this alone for the moment. But just looking at both of these, I think, the stick has its pluses, the quill has its pluses. I like them both. So I turn it over to anyone who wants to share. If you put up your little, okay, good. All right. I see some people are already, I'm going to put my thing back over here. I'm going to move this out of the way. All right. Let's see. You can unmute too. I'll start with you, Laurel. Oh, if you hold that up a little, if you want to unmute and tell us about your experience drawing.
It's I'm sleeping with my cats on the bed.
I love it. I love it. And are they giving you any leg room?
No, that's
No.
I was trying to make these lines were trying to be like shadows of indentations, but it didn't work that well.
It did. It did. That's actually why I said it, because it looks like the one cat is sort of draped over both legs. So I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's great. Wonderful job.
Thank
Really,
you.
really nice. And what material did you use?
It's a Sharpie.
Okay. Excellent.
Just a Sharpie pen.
All right. Awesome. And a gel pen. That's great. Susan Powell, would you like to go next? Do you want to unmute? Oh, that's so cute. Tell us about your experience.
I need to work on my my cats though, but yeah, I have dogs. But yeah, that would be my dream is a whole crowd of cats and dogs just all piled up on top of me, kittens, all of them.
Yeah. I love this so much, and maybe you could put this on the fridge and remind the people around you that you would like all these wonderful creatures. Uh-oh. Did we freeze? Oh no. Did I freeze? No. Maybe she froze. Okay. Susan, when you come back, or put in the chat what you were using. It would be fun to know what your pen was. Who else? I think Sally, you were holding up yours. Do you want to unmute and share? There you go.
It's just a bunch of nonsense.
Awesome.
What happens in your brain when you dream?
I love this. It's so surreal. It just reminds me of what goes on in a dream where it looks like a fish is interacting with a lemon and there's a smiley face of a tree watering a plant. And I don't know what's on the steps, but it looks like some interesting little character up there.
It's like a bumblebee. A very bad bumblebee.
Yeah. No, not bad at all. Oh, I now see the legs of the tree. This is so cool.
Mitten in the shoe.
I love it.
It's just a black ink pen, fine ink. It's
Was it a ballpoint or was it just a regular?
It's a Muji, M-U-J-I.
Okay.
Made in Japan, some kind of just all one thing, black ink.
Excellent. That's excellent. Thank you for sharing. And I see that Susan said she used Shuttle Art Permanent Marker, but my favorite pen is Artist Loft Permanent Ultrafine Pen. I love these suggestions. I don't have enough money to go buy all the materials ever, so I love it when artists share because I also learn too. Okay, we have another artist. Would you like to unmute? Ray is at work.
Hi.
Hi.
Good to see you. Okay, so I'm not an artist at all. I can't draw.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You're making art. You're making art. You're an artist. All right, go ahead.
I had a piece of paper and a pencil, and I drew, let's see if it can be seen. It's supposed to be my Instagram page because I'm building my own company.
Excellent.
I just got my S Corp this week. So this is my future dream.
Congratulations. Oh, congratulations. You know something, this is very similar to an exercise I do with students at the beginning of the year where we draw what we want to see happen in the year. If someone wants to get good grades, if someone wants to get on a varsity team. So kind of putting it down on paper that way is very powerful, and your drawing is really lovely. So I'm so glad you did that. And I also have to say just that comment, because a lot of people do say this. They're like, I'm not an artist, or it's a hobby. If you play tennis on a weekly basis, a lot of us would be like, yeah, I'm a tennis player. I play tennis on a weekly basis. But if you make art or creative in some way, there's some hesitancy about saying you're an artist. And I think it's better to just decide, like, if I make art, I'm an artist. It's okay. There doesn't need to be another qualifier to it. So I'm just spreading that information out there so that you can look at your work and look at what you're doing a little bit differently, just so you feel, you belong here. You belong here.
Yeah.
All right. Who else wants to share? Let's see. If I'm missing anyone. Oh, there's the whole second page. I'm so sorry if there was people that I didn't see. Oh, Louise. Okay. I know Louise.
Oh, wow.
Oh, Louise, look at that. Tell us about it. I think you're muted. Do you want to share?
I think it came out backwards.
No, we can read it.
Oh, okay.
I can see dream. Yeah, hold it up again if you don't mind. So it looks like you were brainstorming lots of different versions of the letters dream, which is so great. Typography is so beautiful to think about too. Or you tell me, what was your focus?
Well, I used the word dream, and then I used the word stream of consciousness, and I kind of wove them together, kind of like a meditative doodle.
Yeah. I think that's a nice thing to do at night, because it's hard to think. Stream of consciousness is a really good way to go.
I love
and
that.
What were you using?
I love that topic, stream of consciousness. It's just very relaxing to me to even say it.
What material were you working with?
I was working with micro pens. These
micro pens. Excellent.
Yeah. And maybe a couple of well, they're just different thicknesses, and then I used a blue gel pen.
Nice. Excellent.
Yeah, it was tempting to put a pencil in too, but I know this is Inktober, so I didn't use a pencil.
I'm not going to tell anybody. You're not going to get in trouble. It's okay.
Well, you know me, I try to do the right thing. That's my problem.
In art,
that's my problem.
In art, there's a wide range that is acceptable, so you're good.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to share? There's so many of you, and you might have butterflies in your tummy and not want to share, but you're in an art community that's very safe, I promise. So, if you feel like sharing, it would be fun to see. Or if anybody is frustrated, I want to make space for those moments, because there are definitely oh, someone's screen sharing. That's
Did the wrong thing.
You don't have to share your screen.
There's your runner.
Yeah, that's not my screen. I think
it's beautiful.
I don't know if that was on purpose. I want to leave space for if somebody is feeling any kind of frustration too, because I want to share that as someone who does a lot of work on a regular basis, I get frustrated a lot. And but just keep doing it is really the answer, and be around creative people that will cheer you on. Sandra, I saw your hand go up. Was that like, yes, I'm frustrated, or yes, I want to share?
Both.
Yeah.
I'm looking
Okay.
at the other people's art, and they look so creative. I copied what you did, and I feel like
Oh, cool.
all the time I can't think of my own ideas. I'm just copying what someone else did. So that's kind of a frustration for me.
Mm-hmm. I can understand that feeling because sometimes when I teach the younger kids, like the 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, they have 30 ideas a second. And I'm like, I would do anything to have like a fraction of that in my brain. And I think there's something about as we get older, we are very practical. We're thinking about are the things we have to get done. It doesn't mean that those creative qualities of imagination are gone, not by any means. It's just a muscle we don't exercise as much as kiddos do. So, give yourself time and space to kind of do silly things, write silly lists, think of, crazy combinations of whatever. And that may not be at night. For me, actually, it's not usually at night. For me, the creative time is when I'm fresh in the morning, and I actually do a lot of my writing in the morning because of that. So it could also be, at night we're all just trying to keep our eyes open after a long day at work. So give yourself a pat on the back and a break for that too. Do you want to share
Thank you.
your artwork, or do you?
Well, it's, I guess. I copied your little girl.
Oh, she's so sweet. I love that. I love the shape of the moon, and I love the little kid. You really got the little kid quality. That's wonderful.
Well, her feet are in the air. So,
Wait,
you
say
know,
that one more time.
feet are like in the air.
Add a pillow.
Yeah,
That's what
okay.
I did. Add a pillow.
Thank you.
No problem. I think I see some artists that were holding stuff up before. Would you guys like to go? I don't know if I'm saying that right. G.
Yes,
Oh,
this is
cool.
the 10-year-old right here,
How
who
old?
is a 10-year-old. 10 year
Nice.
old. Yeah. He's
10-year-old.
a
Excellent.
rocket fan. So he's drawing
I love
SpaceX rocket.
excellent. And that is a type of dream, going back into space and finding all
Yeah.
kinds of cool new information. I love that. And it looks like we have some color in there. What
Yeah.
tools did you use to make your piece?
I think he used a color pencil, and also
Nice.
it's a Sharpie type of pen just for the contour.
Excellent.
Right, right.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
That's excellent. Great job. And I like that you kept it focused on something you really care about. That's something that's important to artists. The subject matter being something that you care about will make it easier to work on. If you are ever working on a piece and you're like, I really don't care about cows. Why am I drawing a cow? It kind of comes through in the art. So keep the focus on what you really love too, if you can. Anyone else? Let's see. I know we're at 8 o'clock. I don't want to keep anyone too late, but I want to leave space for anybody else who wants to share. But you can also share. I'll put the tag into the chat if I can make it go to the entire group. Once again, the ACP Inktober, and I believe this is going to be further promoted a little bit by our Arts Council of Princeton people. So if you have any questions through that page, you can always get in touch. But I'm going to be doing this all through October. This was sort of to get us started, and maybe we'll tackle a couple of themes every week from that list. I'd like to get through all of them this year. I never quite do get through all of them, but I hope you guys had fun. That is the most important thing. As long as you had fun, then we will see you next week. All right. Take care, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
Barbara. It was fun. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank you,
All right,
Barbara.
bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was fun.
Thank you.